Backstage in the auditorium for the last 3 months, a large red sign has sat against a wall. Of course, it's not really backstage anymore, it's right there. I stole it to keep it from being stolen, but I guess in doing that I stole it, so. Most walk past it, most probably haven't even noticed it until you actually point it out to them, but it's there. I noticed it and decided to read it. Western Arms pennant to the winners of Utah County High School track and field meet at Springville, May 20th, 1910, won by Payson. At first glance, there is nothing out of the ordinary in this. Payson's history is long and expansive, and this is just a remnant from those days, until you consider that Payson High School wasn't established until 1912. The fact is everywhere. You can't avoid it. 1912, established, 1912, 100 years of pride, 1912. So, how did Payson take home the Western Arms pennant in 1910 if the school didn't exist until 2 years later? This question prompted me to do something I had never really done before. I went to the Payson Public Library. I soon stumbled upon a book titled Encyclopedia of Utah. Using the index, I found a section on Payson. At the bottom of said section, it recommended I read the book Petite Neat Town, A History of Payson, Utah. I found the book and reread sections over and over again. It couldn't have been Petite Neat, which, while built in 1901, only taught up to 8th grade. Payson did have the first high school south of Salt Lake County, but it was only open from 1874 to 1875. Payson Central School was initially out of the running, but after finding a random article from the Daily Herald circa 2015, I learned that while it had opened in 1884, only teaching up to 8th grade, over the years, Payson Central School built added classes, allowing it to count as high school credit. But who was Western Arms? Well, this one took a lot longer, and a bunch of threads that I checked went nowhere. But eventually, a Salt Lake City business directory from 1909 was found, revealing the Western Arms and Sporting Goods Co., dealing in arms, ammunition, cutlery for some reason, and also sporting goods. With the two most pressing questions answered, I only had one left. Where did the pennant come from? Apparently it had hung in Coach Rockwood's classroom since 2009, but when he left the school, it got moved to the auditorium for some reason. When I emailed him, he mentioned that the pennant had actually been hanging in Jock Hall when he got to the school in 2003, and had stayed there for a few years until the mural of the lion breaking through the wall was painted. He also said he'd love to see it hung up once again somewhere in the school, as would I. The students of Payson Central School competed and won, and I don't want that to go unnoticed. Here's hoping its status can be returned. Besides, who wouldn't want to brag that Payson High School won a high school track meet before we were even a high school? It's pretty safe to assume that the pennant was created as an award for the winners of the track and field meet. As high schools from across the county got together to compete, Payson Central School showed up representing Payson. I think it's safe to assume that Payson Central School won, seeing as we actually got the trophy. The reason it's the Western Arms pennant is because Western Arms probably sponsored the meet. After all, if they're a sporting goods company, they likely sold to all of the high schools or were trying to get to that point with them. This just goes to show you that no matter what you look at, there's a story behind it. And there's always a way to find that story. Well, maybe not always, but that's a story for another time. You know, I really think my favorite part of this whole pennant is the fact that Payson is at the very bottom right corner. I mean, there had to be some woman named Elise who was hired to make the pennant, and then it got to the competition, and the judges of the competition turned to Elise, and they said, "Elise, where are we going to put the victor's name after they win?" And Elise looked at them and said, "You know, I really hadn't thought about that."